We see a sword with a hilt decorated with a coin or metal on which the image is minted. The sword blade is done in somber colors with a pink cast and seems to depict some scenes or images. Engraved on the hilt are the words, "I must forget about her." The face of a man with a terrified and insane expression. His eyes are red as if they are full of rage or fear. The text on the picture reads, "Because I don't want to live. So," with a divine or supernatural being that shines like the sun and dominates something or someone below. Beneath this radiance, we see a figure that appears to be defeated and falling downward, under the great pressure of a force or will emanating from the luminous being. A battle where two characters collide in midair with tremendous force. One of them, looking like a demon or monster, hits the other hard, whose silhouette blurs from the power of the blow. The words, "he," emphasize the moment of impact. The character's eye stares back at us through his purple helmet. His gaze reads determination and willpower. Words all around speak of the desire for freedom and the departure of someone called a master. Another masked character's face cracks from a powerful blow, sparks flying around as a symbol of destruction and the collision of powerful forces. In the next moment, the cloaked hero dives down at a staggering speed, leaving behind a glowing trail with his fist pointed at the ground, ready to strike. The lights and dynamics of the scene emphasize his power and quickness. The character hits the ground with force, causing an explosion and flying shards. His actions are surrounded by a glow which adds visual power to the moment. Two warriors meet in battle, the clash of their weapons throwing out flashes of light like lightning bolts splitting the air. The bam sound of impact emphasizes the power of the collision. The energy of their struggle is so great that it seems as if the very reality around them begins to crackle. The energy of the fight is so great that it seems as if the very reality around you begins to crackle, and a character with dark hair and sharp eyes appears against a backdrop of haze and light halos. His clothing is detailed, and the confidence in his posture shows his strength and determination. While the landscape behind him is snow-capped mountains and forests illuminated by moonlight. The silhouettes of the peaks pierce the sky, creating a sense of the scale and grandeur of nature. A sense of the scale and grandeur of nature is conveyed, dressed in a wide-brimmed hat and cloak, moving slowly through the snowy landscape. He leans on a staff, and his posture expresses the weariness and perseverance indicative of a long journey. The man lifts up the amulet on a string. The stone begins to glow, casting light on the dark corners of reality as if heralding a change. The change comes abruptly, throwing him backwards with force, and he yells, "Thlink!" reflecting surprise and shock at the sudden development, as the amulet's magic bursts forth unexpectedly. The shock of the sudden development is felt in his every movement as he falls to the ground, and the words "here" come out of his mouth, expressing his pain and frustration at his loss of control. The frustration of losing control shifts to the realization of his helplessness. There is despair in his eyes as he utters, "Lian sleep." And what follows is an admission of his failure to complete the task given to him. A silhouette of a man against a sunset sky watching a glowing amulet fly away. The mysterious light of the amulet pierces through the twilight, inviting reflection on the accomplished. The amulet seemed to come to life, reflecting in the eye of the person scrutinizing it. Its light flickers in the lens of the eye, and the moment seems important, as if the amulet contains something precious to look at. As if echoing this view, a huge pagoda looms in the night, its outline looming against the red background. The building seems ancient and full of mystery, a place where ancient knowledge or power may lurk. A wise old man with a snow-white beard asks a question about power, his face expressing seriousness and deep insight. It speaks to someone who may be looking for answers or pondering their path in this world. A boy in brightly colored clothing looks up with bewilderment and delight, exclaiming, "Aren't they flowers, Grandpa?" His face lit up with joyful surprise, and his eyes full of anticipation for an answer. An old man in traditional clothing with a surprised expression on his face replies, "Oh ho, flowers, you say? Why do you think that?" He seems confused by the boy's confusion and probably knows more than he's willing to say right now. The conversation continues and the old man, pointing to the plant, says, "From the noble to the commoner." This can be the beginning of an explanation about the value and meaning of what the boy mistook for flowers. The boy, with genuine enthusiasm, objects, "Everyone is talking about it, and Sovrat for it all over the capital. If power isn't flowers, what else could it be?" He is determined to understand and unravel the mystery of this phenomenon that is exciting everyone around him. A young man in yellow clothes spreads his arms and laughs, "Ha ha ha ha, just as expected from my horse-taking. How clever." His joy and contentment fill the space. An old man with a serious expression on his face and a stern look declares, However, Yunwen, remember, his words seem like a warning or an important lesson he wants to convey. Even though they're bright and colorful, they can wilt like they never happened, continues the old man, perhaps referring to the colors or to a deeper philosophical meaning related to the passage and changeability of life. My grandfather, who had no suitable heir, passed the throne to me. The final phrase perhaps opens up the broader context of the story by pointing to the importance of heritage and the intergenerational transmission of knowledge or power. The leaf falls smoothly in silence, symbolizing that existence is never separated from the existence of Mount Tai. Like a leaf that cannot escape its unchanging destiny, so too the person associated with this place cannot evade what has been predestined. A censer of burning incense fills the space with smoke, as if to emphasize the impossibility of changing what has been predestined. Shows a man lying on the floor, surrounded by the shadow of fate that looms over him inevitably. The desperation in his situation is felt in every pixel of the image. The young man looks up, his face lit by the glow of the falling leaf and filled with anxiety. He realizes that some things are unavoidable and have to be put up with. Demonstrates the explosive power of a large number of warriors where warriors in armor stand. Listen, Zhu Yunwen, as if embodying the fate that had befallen the protagonist. A man in an outfit with dignity stands among flying petals. On his face reads seriousness and authority. The caption under the image is Prince Zhen. He says with anger and reproach, "No matter what the late emperor said, how can the fate of the empire be entrusted to a lowlife like you?" His words are full of contempt and defiance, directed at someone he believes does not deserve power. If you really care about this country and the people, then instead of laughing on the throne, find a place suitable for scum like you. His statement is a stern criticism and a call for accountability. A young man in yellow clothes with anxiety and incomprehension in his eyes says, "Ada, what are you talking about?" He is stunned and does not understand the nature of the rebuke. The mysterious laugh and the words, "What else?" belong to a character we don't see, but who seems to be out of sight and possibly plays an important role in the story. The dark character declares with a predatory smile, "Everything has an order. Get your heavy ass out of my palace." His words and facial expression reflect a sinister determination and power. It was a coup caused by a blood relative. This opens up the image of a coup, a conspiracy that changes the course of history and the fates of the characters. See the consequences of these events. A lot of people died as a result. This emphasizes the tragedy and brutality of the power struggle. A young man in yellow clothing shouts, "Your Majesty, please show some leniency." He appeals to a higher power, perhaps in an attempt to cajole or change a harsh sentence. The word "man sleep" emphasizes his desperation and the urgency of the situation. The soldiers receive orders. Capture Zhu Yunwen and kill him. Protect His Majesty. It is an indication of the growing chaos and drama of events as the stakes become deadly high. The character on the horse recalls how Master Liang Song sent me out of the palace by secret way. Did you memorize it? It is a revelation about the past that may be pivotal to current events. The elder says reproachfully, "The top of the dancing little peak on Mount Tai. Please find a small stone monument and hang the Emperor's chiton on it." His words could be a plea for help or the last will of a dying ruler. The two people who served His Majesty Emperor Hun will definitely help you. Is an appeal to loyalty and service, perhaps an extreme appeal to those still loyal to the deposed ruler. The young man says in despair, "Liang Song, how can I continue to live this miserable life?" His words express deep despair and loss of hope in the face of unimaginable hardship. An exasperated character with a menacing look shouts, "Come to your senses, Zhu Yunwen." His voice and facial expressions are full of intent to bring correction or punishment. A young man with a serious face says, "This is the only way to fulfill the royal decree and honor His Majesty Emperor Hunu." His words speak of hard choices and the burden of responsibility. The old man asks with a startled and pleading look, "Please spare me, what will you throw out?" "Your Majesty." His words reflect fear and despair at the inevitable. "I get it. Liang Song." The young man expresses his understanding of the situation, his face contorted with anguish and the realization of what he must do. A figure on horseback rides through the forest, moving away from pursuit. The dialogue cloud says, "May fortune be with you, Your Majesty." The character's face expresses deep sadness and reflection on the nature of power. So power is so fickle. He then continues his reflections on revival. "If I could be born again, instead of a flower that could wither at any moment," which emphasizes his hopes for a new beginning and a move away from the fragility of his current situation. of the character with his eyes closed. Liang Song looks like, "That's all I can do." His last words reflect humility before the imminent end of his journey. We see a golden altar with two huge horns, from which an eerie red glow emanates, giving the impression of an ancient ritual or spell. An old man who appears to be conducting a ritual stands amid the fire and smoke, raising a golden altar upward. His face expresses deep concentration, and there is an air of magic and mysticism around him. He recalls, "I remember it clearly as if it were yesterday." His memories obviously involve events of great importance and emotional significance. Is represented by a book or stone slab that speaks of the basics of summoning souls and binding spirits and demons kept in the secret vault of the cult of the Father worshippers. This alludes to ancient and powerful knowledge that may have been used or lost in the day when those things stole it. Shrouded in magical light, towering over a multitude of candles. He pronounces, "If His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor hadn't gifted me with a will from the beginning, I wouldn't even exist in this world." The golden altar reappears in front of us, emitting a strong light, as if some ancient power is being activated. The old man with a tense and determined expression shouts, "Hosen no, is the vessel ready?" Preparation for some important ritual or ceremony reaches a climax. The old man stands among the candles, his face reflecting deep concentration, and perhaps he is the key figure in carrying out this mystical ritual. We see an old man who seems to be recounting a complex and delicate operation. "I removed his epithelium and shaved off his skeleton. I inserted ivory under the new roof and grafted back the removed epithelium." He continues, explaining the process. "I poured dozens of kinds of elixirs and forgotten juices into him, melting his bones and resculpting his outline." An old man shares his reflections on his age and the complexity of the task. "Since I'm old now, I have to constantly rebuild myself. It's very good that there's not a single mistake in the surgical procedure." Of an old man who says with force and determination, His Majesty is faced with an ambitious, frozen, complete modification of his body. This may indicate a risky conversion or restoration done to preserve or improve its condition. We see a young man lying quietly, apparently after completing some important procedure. His face is calm and he seems completely relaxed. The text announces the completion of the preparation. "The preparation of the vessel is complete, Huang No." He evaluates the completed work and confidently states, "Great job. The late Heavenly Emperor would have been thrilled as well." His words reflect a deep respect for past traditions and a belief in continuing their legacy. The old man in a state of tense anticipation. He turns to the unknown interlocutor with a question full of anticipation. "Let me ask you, are you ready to welcome your new life?" His gaze awaits a response, emphasizing the seriousness of the moment and the importance of the change to come. The old man stands in front of a vortex of energy that bursts into reality, creating a portal or gateway. He looks like a guardian or guide, ready to escort or guide the young man through this mystical passage. It is a moment full of magic and mysticism, where the old boundaries of the world dissolve and the way is open to new beginnings. In the depths of darkness where the fiery eyes flare, a question full of defiance hovers. "How dare you wake me from my sleep?" This cry of the soul, exuded from the depths of uncharted worlds, is echoed in an even darker answer coming from the same fathomless depths. "Why do you bother me?" The sage, as if stepping out of the legends of the past, raises his hand over the breathless body. With his words full of mysterious intent, he proclaims, "From now on, everything becomes important." This statement carries the weight of destiny, the promise of awakening to a new beginning, the promise of a new life he wants to give. A sage's vow of new life is met with the mockery of a dark entity hidden in the rift of reality. "A new life? Ha 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 ha." Sarcastic laughter echoes in the abyss, mocking hopes and dreams. And it sounds like a foreshadowing of something terrifying yet mesmerizing. "How interesting!" echoed in space, inspiring fear and admiration for the unknown that had just begun to awaken. But the wise man standing before the gate of the other world has no fear. His eyes widen with surprise and his face contorts in an expression of bewilderment and shock. No, just one word, but it's full of despair and denial. The word is a denial of all that is offered by the darkness, a refusal to make a deal that could change everything. The sage stands before the rift of reality, and the question resounds in his mind like a ghost of the past. "Why? Don't you want that?" The air is filled with anticipation of an answer that could change the course of the story, open a new page, or end a chapter. From the rift comes the voice of an entity full of unwavering determination. "I don't want to become human." This rejection illuminates the past of an entity imbued with a thirst for life that was once lost. Have you ever lived the life of a consummate denizen? Question, pithy and profound, sounds like an echo in infinity. The voice continues its mocking tone. You want me to experience boredom and loneliness again? The answer resounds over the head of the sage standing on a pedestal before the embodiment of his fear and desire. Enough of this. Hell would be much more interesting. The poignant words defy the world and fate. But the sage does not succumb to intimidation. His resolve does not waver even in the face of the darkest threats. Never again will you summon me, he pronounces it like a spell, like a final judgment. If you summon me again for this reason, for anything, I'll kill everyone. His voice shakes with rage and promise, and each word sounds like a curse, like a challenge to fate itself. Wait a minute. Stop. The sage is horrified to realize the implications of his words, his gestures of despair and fear suggesting that something irreversible has happened. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the wise man realizes that he will have to come up with a secret plan. His eyes are full of determination and fear, while tears of sadness roll down his face. If the heavenly demon returns now, all of this will be for nothing. His words express immense despair and fear of the possible return of the terrible creature. The wise man turns to an unseen force that can help him in his task. I need something. He searches for words, spells that can protect reincarnated souls, starting from a continuous cycle that can avert the catastrophe that is upon the world. Suddenly, he is interrupted by a high-pitched scream. Heavenly demon! The sage is horrified to realize that his worst fears are coming true. Fear grips him, and he realizes that the demon could return at any moment. And when the sage looks at his most vulnerable, a familiar fiery presence appears before his eyes. The rift reopens, and from it comes a mysterious and demanding question. This exclamation is full of uncertainty and anticipation of a new, possibly fateful turn of events. In the face of an unfathomable threat, the sage finds himself on his knees, and the desperation in his voice echoes in the darkness. What did you just say? The darkness around him came alive, as if waiting for his next words, which could be either salvation or damnation. With a force of will that is as strong as the grim power surrounding him, the sage replies, If you're really a heavenly demon, then you're an idiot. Come to think of it, you're not exactly leading us in the world around us. His words are full of courage and challenge, contrary to the fear he feels in the face of the unknown. But the entity, hidden in darkness, does not care for the words of the wise man. You tiny human, are you done talking? His question is more of an assertion, a declaration of a power that recognizes no objection and tolerates no delay. The creature in the shadows, stunned, asks one last question, What's Sanfeng? And at that moment, under the power of extraordinary aspects named Qigong Sanfeng, the sage demonstrates his will, even more perfect than the akramas, instilling fear and emphasizing the coming change. The darkness thickens and the essence hidden in the rift responds with disbelief to the name spoken by the sage. Akrama? I've never heard that kid's name before. The doubt and distrust in her voice indicate ignorance, a lack of knowledge of what could change their dialogue and the whole action. The sage, without wasting a second, replied, That's what I mean when I say you need to be concerned about the world around you. With each word, his voice grows stronger and more confident, and he has no intention of relenting in front of Sage Sanfeng. What? Can't even stand a second, ouch! There is an outcry from an entity whose patience is clearly wearing thin. A rush of emotion surges through her words, and she can't hold back. But the sage doesn't stop, addressing her with a new challenge. Heavenly demon, do you know about the word development? His question, full of wisdom and provocation, offers the prospect of change, the evolution of even the darkest essence. In a dialogue that stretches across time and space, the sage shares his vision. You may have been the best in your time, he says, pointing out that even the most powerful entities can become obsolete and lose their dominance. But the people of the world have perfected their art step by step, he continues, emphasizing that progress is inexorable, and each new generation reaches new heights inaccessible to previous ones. The current generation is facing a martial arts development that cannot be compared to your generation. Sage proudly proclaims the achievements of modernity that are rewriting history and notions of the possible. And in response to the entity's rebuke of boredom and loneliness, the sage challenges, And you were bored because of it, then become him again, unrivaled, then and now. His words echo in the void, like an invitation to the entity to find a new path or to return to former greatness. The entity, clearly sensing the sage's challenge, responds with no less assertiveness, unrivaled then and now, the strongest among generations. Her words are full of determination and a hint that she has not lost her greatness, even as she stands in the face of time and change. We see a figure imprisoned in a dungeon, a creature that once caused terror now humbly awaiting its fate. How old is this little kid? To him to give. There is a note of regret in these words, perhaps of time gone by or of a failed legacy. Then he'll live at least another 100 years. Very well, I will attend to him. The essence expresses a readiness for a new endeavor. For nurturing and teaching, that can be the beginning of a new era. The essence declares, if this generation's dead is really strong, I will hone my skills and prove that I am the best in this generation. Unrivaled demi-master, then and now, eternal and unrivaled supreme. These words are not just a statement, they are a promise. The promise of a return to greatness and perhaps a new battle for the title of strongman. Against the backdrop of the heavenly rift, the sage, humbly and with gratitude in his voice, utters, "When this passes, I will comfort you." His words are full of compassion and understanding, promising support and comfort in the face of an unknown future. Now go and live there. I'm starting. Very well, the sage orders with rigor and determination, preparing for the beginning of a new phase that may change all established routines. Figure, as if released from stone captivity, exudes strength and energy that permeates the space, heralding a new chapter in their story. "Who's in no? Bring the demon's soul flame," commanded the sage with unbreakable confidence, demanding that he bring what could serve as the key to a new beginning. "And I'll leave the rest to you." It empowers the other to take on the remainder of the task, delegating responsibility and thus trusting in their ability to accept and fulfill the challenge. The ritual of rebirth begins. The sage gently places the mystical object in the mouth of the person lying before him. This moment is full of tension and anticipation, as if one small movement could change the outcome of the entire process. The attention then shifts to the sage holding the object, the key to the next step in their long-standing and mysterious practice. His gaze is focused and determined, ready for action, the consequences of which cannot be predicted. Awakening within a person, energy spreads through his body and his eyes open as if he is awakening from a long sleep, or as if new life is being infused into him. And suddenly, a surge of power. "Hey, master!" A stunned and energized voice breaks the silence, and the figure rises, its eyes glowing with a new intensity, the fire of awakening blazing in them. The sage watches this transformation, apparently satisfied with the result of his actions. It is a moment of transformation, the beginning of a new chapter for the regenerate, and perhaps a new era for all who have witnessed this miracle. The awakening of the relic is accompanied by the cry, "Ah!" the sound that bursts from the depths of the soul of the reborn. This cry is full of pain and confusion, an echo of the transformation that has just taken place. "Master, what's wrong?" an anxious voice echoed back. The sage's ward rose, and the chaos in his eyes spoke of a deep inner struggle. "I hear voices. My head hurts like it's going to burst," he says, his expression reflecting great pain and confusion. Awakening brings not only strength, but also agonizing consequences for him to deal with. "What's that voice? Huan Nok!" He searches for answers, trying to understand the new sensations that swept his mind after the ritual. A sage who seems to be trying to reassure and protect his disciple from an unseen threat, fending off an attack or countering a sudden menace that has loomed over them both. The scene is filled with urgency and desperate struggle as the sage faces the unintended consequences of his ritual. The continuation of the ritual is interrupted by a sudden cry of agony. The reborn emits beams of energy, gripped by painful spasms. This phenomenon looks like a struggle with something invisible, a struggle with forces he cannot control. The sage, reacting to the situation, moves his hands frantically, trying to tame or stabilize the raging energy, his face reflecting the shock and bewilderment of what is happening before his eyes. "Huang, no! What's going on here? How is that possible?" In his voice, you can hear not only surprise, but also fear of the unpredictable consequences of the magical process. "Master?" The revived man turns to the sage, his face contorted with pain and distorted with agony. At his cry, the space around him fills with a dark aura, and the sage realizes that the process of rebirth has taken an unforeseen turn. The sage, addressing his assistant Huang No, reveals a serious problem. "He's not saying this to you, Huang No. Right now, the master is talking to an unknown demon." There is a sense of urgency and concern in his words. "Can't you tell? Stop stating the obvious and do something already." The sage insists on action, demanding that his assistant take decisive steps to control a situation that is rapidly spiraling out of control. An unknown demon has failed to take full control of the master, and the sage realizes that the clash of consciousnesses is something that shouldn't have happened. The risk of destroying the master's mind is great if this process continues. Then maybe we'll send back the heavenly demon, suggests a wise man, looking for a way to solve an impending catastrophe. But his confession, "I know how to summon it, but I don't know how to send it back," indicates that they are faced with a problem for which they do not have a ready solution, and they are facing a challenge that requires an immediate and innovative approach. A piercing scream resonates through space, full of pain and rage. Ugh, error! Tension vibrates in the air, and the soul, caught in the fiery maelstrom of transformation, seeks a way out of its misery. The sage, puzzled but determined, pronounces, "Damn it, I'm sure the heavenly demon's demonic soul and the master's consciousness have collided." The realization of the gravity of the situation is reflected in his eyes. "Wait, demonic nature, that's it." With effort, the sage focuses, faced with the need to act quickly and effectively in this critical situation. "I have another demon soul pill. We can use the great fundamentals again. With this, we will suppress the heavenly demon's demonic nature," he says, holding out his last hope of regaining balance and control of the situation. A wise man in a state of deep concentration and determination holds an object that he believes can help the situation. He asks a rhetorical question, emphasizing the seriousness of the moment. "What are you talking about? What are you going to suppress with the demon soul pill?" In desperation, he turns to an unseen enemy, criticizing his actions. "Disgruntled old man, has your clever head turned into a block of stone?" His words have a mixture of anger and frustration in response to the dangerous situation they find themselves in. Of a force that seems to be influenced by a magical object. "We're going to put another person in the master's body, another legendary character of orthodox Murism," he announces, suggesting a possible solution to the problem. The sage confirms his plan, still holding the mysterious pill. "Exactly. You're trying to neutralize the two natures by summoning a character to suppress demonic energy." This statement indicates the complex and possibly risky method he's going to use to solve the crisis they are facing. The sage, filled with determination and a sense of urgency, declares, "We don't have time. The method is the same as before, so let's waste no time and get started." His voice reflects the tension of the moment, a call to action without further delay. "Let's try this. We'll leave the rest to the heavens." In preparing for the ritual, he emphasizes that some things are beyond their control and must be left to fate. A demonic tirade, words that are possibly a spell or a powerful formula that can summon or suppress immense powers. Celestial tirade, perhaps another aspect or contrast of demonic power that is used to restore balance or to counter dark magic. We see the closed eyes of a figure, above whose head flashes a light halo with intriguing patterns like a mosaic of light. Emperor. This may symbolize the awakening or resurrection of a great power or spirit. Captures the movement of energy, vortices, and light streams that surround the invisible figure. The phrase, "whoever shows up must be someone from heaven," suggests an appeal to a higher power or seeking help from higher realms. In full stature, with arms outstretched, enveloped in a powerful glow, which may indicate a complete transformation or the gaining of unprecedented power. Lying on the ground, one of whom, the sage, utters words of fatigue and exhaustion. I definitely saw..." This could mean the end of a ritual or action that has drained all his energy. Turns to his mentor, lying on the ground in confusion. "Master, were you okay?" His gaze and tone are full of concern and worry for the sage's well-being. A figure with a masculine and determined expression rises up, his eyes exuding strength and new vitality. "I am hungry. Show me food," she utters, her voice sounding confident and powerful, as if a new chapter of her existence is opening. This figure, full of vitality and energy, stands at full height, as if ready to face all the challenges that lie ahead. "Got anything to eat?" she asks, emphasizing her newfound strength and energy, not only by inner strength but also by physical hunger. We then see her accepting food served on chopsticks, an action that symbolizes her return to life, to a living, earthly existence after the transcendental experience. Full of energy and appetite, enjoys the meal, while the sage standing behind watches with peace and perhaps satisfaction at the successful outcome of events. In contemplation, one of whom, apparently a wise man, asks the question, "Whoa, we got it?" His face expresses doubt and hope at the same time. The gaze of the revived figure is filled with confidence and a kind of inner peace. Her look seems piercing and deep. The figure's resentment at being placed in a small space. A demonic image appears in the background, perhaps indicating an internal conflict or ongoing struggle between the human and demonic natures within her. Addressed to the hero, "You must be that shaman, a living celestial demon." These words can be an expression of surprise or admiration, a recognition of his strength and importance. The hero, with a serious and reserved expression, seems to be responding to a compliment or appreciation of his abilities, with the inscription perhaps reflecting his modesty or unwillingness to admit his true self. Character, suddenly alarmed and ready for action with the question, "Both of you silence. Do you think you're alone here?" This may indicate an awakening or realization of a new reality in which he is not alone and must consider others as well. Cast by a mysterious foe or enemy, with powerful words that could be a spell or a challenge to the hero. "Stand back, you demon! Can't you feel the wind I speak?" The words evoke the feeling of a magical battle or confrontation full of mystical energy and spiritual power. The character seems pensive and a bit confused, expressing a thought out loud. "If you think about it, I think things have changed. It's nonsense, of course, but now it's not so intrusive." This may reflect his internal changes and new perception of the world. We see the conflict between the hero and perhaps the inner demon, who reacts violently. "What? Damn you! How dare you speak that way to me, the strongest being in the world? I said it's noisy in here." It involves a struggle for control and confrontation with a force that claims dominance. Express their amazement or bewilderment, perhaps reacting to unexpected events or words spoken during this internal struggle. Of a celestial demon who seems to ask the hero, "Celestial demon, what about you?" It can be a call for self-awareness or a dialogue that can help the character understand their true nature or the next steps on their journey. A demonic figure with piercing eyes and a menacing smile said, "So Rantian apprentice, this old ruin can hardly know what liveliness is." It could be mocking or teasing. Perhaps the demon is trying to confuse or test its interlocutor. Demon's dialogue, "Give me your suggestions, iron-blooded Asura." These words seem to offer a challenge or invitation to action, suggesting a battle of wits or wills. The surprised and perplexed face of the protagonist, which may reflect his confusion at the unexpected turn of events, or his lack of understanding of the demon's motives. The demon looks confident and dominant while pointing his finger, perhaps a gesture of command or a requirement for the protagonist. This expression of strength and confidence may herald a new phase in their confrontation or collaboration. We see with a serious and disgruntled expression on his face who says, "Hey, I need IMS, not some NOO's trendy title." He seems upset about an offer that doesn't meet his expectations or needs. The dialogue in the picture expresses his surprise and disagreement with someone else's status, raising questions about the context of that conversation. An outburst of anger and power. A creature with a violet glow and frightening facial features embodies rage. The words, "I'm going to cover him with my body right now," demonstrate the character's intent and willpower. Perhaps he is ready for decisive action. By a demon who seems puzzled, it sparks interest in their relationship and the story behind these characters. Wonders, eh? Why am I still okay? It may indicate an unexpected turn of events or unusual circumstances in which it found itself. Perhaps the creature expected a different outcome after the encounter or confrontation. Our hero faces a powerful adversary. "So it's because of that bastard," he exclaims, looking at the glowing presence that is preventing him from controlling his body. An unknown force is embodied in a demonic being shrouded in a purple halo, with red eyes full of rage and contempt for humanity. "Damn it! In terms of numbers, I'm losing," ponders the hero, realizing the disadvantage of his position in the face of an unimaginable force. But in the depths of his being, an idea is brewing, a plan that could turn the tide of battle. "Since I can't take control of his body, I have no choice but to play on something I started with him in the first place. Time is running out, and the hero is about to use the most unexpected tactic, the vulnerability of his enemy, hidden in the thinnest threads of their fate, bound together by invisible ties. "It's kind of weird to use my last name Jew as it is, right?" Pensively he muttered, asking a question that might prove to be the key to solving this mystery. The hero to understanding his adversary and perhaps to finding a path to freedom. It is a battle of not only physical strength, but an intellectual standoff, where every word and every choice matters. The tension in the fight is building. The creature, shrouded in purple flames, states with menace, "I'm definitely getting your whole body." These are not the words of a mere villain, but of a powerful enemy who is not accustomed to retreating in the face of obstacles. The hero, despite the deadly threat, does not lose his composure. "Why do you keep muttering something to yourself? What, do you have something to say?" Calmly, but with defiance, he challenges the forces of darkness, trying to expose their weaknesses. And then, in a moment when it seemed that the air was saturated with nothing but tension, the demon gives out something unexpected, as if it were a clue to the unraveling of its power. That's right, your battle name. I've been thinking about your name, he says, and in those words lies a subtext that could open a new chapter in this confrontation. The hero remains impenetrable, his gaze full of determination and equanimity. What's going to happen next? What name is so disturbing to a demon? And what will be the hero's next trick in this game of wits? These pages are like a riddle that beckons the reader to seek answers along with the hero. The hero says with a chuckle, "Celestial Destroyer," confirming his title or perhaps code name, for his gaze and half-smile indicate an underlying confidence and inner strength. We see the hero in brightly colored clothes, ready for a new day or a new challenge. His posture and facial expression indicate a readiness for action, yet he remains calm and composed. Before us is an old man who addresses the hero with concern and respect, calling him a young master. This elder, perhaps a servant or counselor, expresses concern about the hero's intentions. The hero replies to the old man with a slight smile, promising that his plans involve traveling, hinting at the adventures to come. His confidence and relaxed smile suggest that he owns the situation and is not afraid of the challenges ahead. The hero turns around, his eyes fixed on the old man who can't seem to hide his amazement. "Are you leaving already?" A question full of surprise and perhaps concern. "What's the big deal?" "I'm just leaving," the hero replies, his tone light, but there's a sense of determination in his voice. The old man seems shocked. "But you haven't had time yet to restore his martial arts." His words express deep concern, and he is clearly worried about the hero's well-being. The hero only covers his eyes, as if dismissing the old man's excitement, his gesture confident and calm. "I have all the martial arts of a heavenbreaker stored in my head," he says, and those words carry the weight of all his experience and knowledge. "I can just ask for it on the way out. You were the ones who did it, but you didn't know about it?" His words are cryptic and full of hidden meaning. The character clearly possesses a deep knowledge, and his confidence shows that he is prepared for anything that may come his way. The old men, dumbfounded by the hero's determination, cannot hide their anxiety. "But we're not comfortable letting you go like this, young master." Words are filled with confusion and concern. Perhaps they sense that the journey ahead promises to be challenging and dangerous. The hero, however, seems undeniably calm in the face of their concerns. His eyes stare off into the distance, and it's as if he finds a confidence within himself that allows him to remain unfazed. "Great. In that case, does that reassure you?" he replies. His words and look show that he's prepared for the challenges ahead and that his intentions are deep and considered. Then we see the hero walking away from the elders, his figure diminishing against the backdrop of a majestic tree. It's like he's a part of this earth, his spirit in harmony with the world around him. The old men look after the departing hero, their faces reflecting mixed feelings, surprise and bewilderment caused by his last words. "Pardon me," they say, barely catching the meaning of his intentions. The hero, whose eyes sparkle with an unusual light, as if reflecting the fire of inner strength, utters, "Heavenly demon, let's use your martial art." His words sound like a challenge, revealing a new facet of his character and foreshadowing a new dynamic in the unfolding of events. The hero in motion, full of grace and power, his stance and gaze radiating self-confidence. He is ready for the battle, the act of facing the unknown that lies ahead in his path. The old men slowly withdraw, leaving the hero to go his own way. They return to their lives, perhaps contemplating the future that awaits their young mentor. The fate of their apprentice is now in his own hands, and his path takes him deep into uncharted lands, promising trials and adventures. The hero, smiling dazzlingly, is leaning relaxedly against a tree, as if a musical note hovers lightly in the air beside him. His confidence and nonchalance clearly indicate that he is ready for the adventures ahead, despite the dangers that may lie ahead. The old men left behind exchange words, their conversation full of reflection. "Huh? Is it really going to be okay?" One expresses doubt, wondering about the consequences of the hero's choice. "The master is already out of our control." Another old man expresses concern that the hero, now acting on his own, may face unexpected challenges. Their concern for him does not subside even at a distance. No, that's not what I'm talking about," the old man continued, his words trailing off as if he wanted to express something deeper, but couldn't find the right words to describe his feelings. "I say, And then the words fade into the air. The old men turn to stare after the departing hero. They may realize that the time for their mentorship has passed, and now the hero must find his own path and face his own destiny. The old man with concern in his eyes said thoughtfully, "Is it really normal?" His words hang in the air, unspoken thoughts of what difficulties their student might encounter along the way. A path on which something unusual has unfolded, perhaps the consequence of a recent incident or struggle, showing that the hero's world is full of surprises and dynamic events. Old men standing on a snowy peak contemplating the distant mountains. Their figures and the landscape around them together create a sense of tranquility and yet infinity of the path each of them chooses. One of the elders, with a note of confidence in his voice, turns to his companion. "Is all well with the master?" A question that shows they care. "Don't worry, he'll get out of it somehow," replies the other, showing faith in his student's strength and wisdom in his ability to overcome difficulties. One of the elders, with a special expression in his eyes, shares his observation. "He looks a lot like the late emperor." This observation perhaps reveals a remarkable similarity between the hero and a prominent historical figure or predecessor. "Don't you realize it too, Hu Jiang?" he adds, turning to his companion, emphasizing the importance of his remark and suggesting that their apprentice is not just a random wanderer, but someone whose fate is closely intertwined with the history of their world. Snowy peaks, symbolizing perhaps the height and difficulty of the path to be taken by the hero, and at the same time reminding him of the permanence and grandeur of the world in which he wanders. Back covered with the marks of previous trials, indicating that he had already gone through many battles and trials. These scars are quiet testimonies to his experience and resilience in the face of life's challenges. Whose silhouette stands out against the cold winter landscape. His words are full of defiance and determination. "No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to break our spirit." This statement is not just words of encouragement or self-affirmation. They carry a deeper meaning and purpose. Dynamic movement in the struggle, where every maneuver and blow speaks of the hero's skill and his unwavering will. A new character is revealed to us, whose calmness and composure contrast with the ferocity of battle. "You have the spirit of a martial arts master. You face the light, but that's where your luck ends," he says, suggesting there's more to come than just a physical confrontation. Until we, the Northern Blade Association, intervene. His words open a new chapter in this story, where each character plays their part in a complex web of events and confrontations. With courageous determination in his eyes, expresses his thoughts. "That's right, that's the way to say it. Aren't you the ones who originally acted with your power?" His words carry a challenge that emphasizes his unyielding will and willingness to stand for his beliefs. He continues, "The Northern Blade Association may be the dominant force in the kingdom, but I am also a disciple of a great school." This recognition indicates his deep roots and training, which gives him confidence in his actions. Full of determination and fighting spirit, pick it up and tell it to the head of the Northern Blade Association. "Someday the day will come when I will destroy them, end this life." His statement shows that he is not afraid to face any obstacles head-on. The reserved facial expression of another character, perhaps an adversary or observer, whose reaction to the protagonist's words may predict an impending confrontation or internal conflict. Is the leader of the Northern Blade Association, expresses doubt about the speed of the day of reckoning. "I don't think that day will come." Then adds that their association's goal is to end the rule of the 7 kings of the demon path. Replies sarcastically, "Just a net of heaven and earth. This Hagunye will..." And further clarifies that he should not be underestimated. "Do you really think I don't know about your plan?" He emphasizes that he has information that could change the course of events. The leader of the Northern Blade expresses his willingness to protect his brothers and allow them to escape if necessary, hinting that their struggle has deep roots and many sides. Stands before the assembled crowd, his look and posture suggesting that he is ready for a clash despite all obstacles and superior enemy forces. The adversary, with confidence and slight irony in his voice, asks, "Did you hear that?" Raising his index finger, he adds, "I think your brothers have already gone to the underworld." His words hint at a possible victory over the hero's companions and foreshadow further trials. At this, he exclaims with undisguised anger, "You orthodox bastards!" and announces that he is determined to destroy the demonic path family. His decision and willpower are read in his every move. The opponent's face expresses concentration and readiness for battle. His gaze is filled with determination and anticipation of the fight. Shows the beginning of the clash between them. The sword of the enemy is about to strike the hero, which foreshadows a fierce battle. This moment is filled with tension and anticipation of the outcome of the battle, in which each of the participants is ready to use all their skills and strength to win. Forcefully deflects the powerful blow of his opponent, demonstrating not only physical power, but also unwavering determination. The sounds of metal clashing and the power of impact are palpable in every movement. The enemy, not inferior in skill, is fighting with high concentration. His every movement is precise and calculated. You can read the confidence in his technique and strategy on his face. Despite the strength of the enemy's blows, does not give up his position. His roar fills the air, reflecting a fighting spirit and unyielding will. He's not just defending but preparing for a counterattack. Raising his sword for a counterattack, challenges his opponent with a loud battle cry. He is completely absorbed in the battle, ready to confront whatever the next moment of combat brings. The opponent in white, with a characteristic expression on his face, emphasizes his opinion. Did you say demonic path family? Getting rid of them is the right thing to do. His words indicate that he approves of the hero's decision to renounce ties to the dark side. Clenching his teeth in anger and frustration, he replies, however you bastards behave, if that's the man. This statement suggests a deep personal connection between him and the subject, pointing to a complex history and unresolved conflicts. The opponent continues, clarifying, are you talking about the Grandmaster of the demonic path, Gay Chong, that you respect so much? His words reveal the character's respect for a certain person, perhaps a teacher or relative, which adds complexity to their relationship. Should I let you in on a secret? Asks the adversary, offering to reveal information that could completely change the course of their interaction and possibly the entire context of the conflict. The opponent in white, with a slight chuckle, continues his arrogant mockery by exclaiming, and the Sword King of the North Sea and the Purgatory of the Azure Sea turned away. He shows disdain for the hero, considering his efforts useless and frivolous. In response to these taunts, asks the rhetorical question, what can a Grandmaster of the demonic path even do? By this, he seems to question the authority and influence of his enemy. The enemy, despite the hero's onslaught, coolly continues, you talk too much. It doesn't match your looks. His comment indicates his belief that the hero's outward strength does not match his words, and he urges his men, boys, take him. We see, knocked down, falling to the ground, surrounded by his enemies. This moment is filled with tension and foreshadows a critical point in the fight where the outcome of the battle seems uncertain. Despite his injuries, shows a tremendous will to win. His body, naked and scarred, is full of determination and strength as he rises to continue the fight. Shows the moment of collision where the hero strikes with furious force. There is a sense of desperate struggle in his movements, and each blow is filled with determination to break the barriers in his path. The enemy exclaims, seeing the might and fury, that boar-like bastard. His words reflect surprise and perhaps even admiration for the hero's persistence and indomitability. Turns to the opponent with a question full of challenge, do you still have the internal energy left to use aura key amplification? He is willing to continue the fight even in the face of inevitable defeat, and his words emphasize his unyielding spirit and willingness to go all the way. Meets his opponent's powerful punch, but despite that, he doesn't give up. With every move he makes, he demonstrates indomitable strength and resilience. Feeling the pain from the blows, realizes the deception from his opponent. He blocked my chakra with his enhanced sword chi. This realization of his opponent's superior skill only strengthens his resolve to fight. Prepares for a decisive clash where his opponent, the opponent in white, confidently declares, Hagwonye, you are now the last of the 7 kings of the Demon King clan's demonic path. He expresses the belief that the current confrontation will be the hero's last. The enemy in white promises an end to the hunt. Today's hunt will end after we eliminate you. He represents a cold-blooded and calculating warrior fully confident of his superiority and impending victory. Responds to his enemy by sarcastically emphasizing the failure of his plans and promises. His words hint at a deep contempt and lack of fear of death. Without showing an ounce of sympathy, dryly suggests that the hero simply die, emphasizing his indifference to the hero's fate. A burst of powerful energy heralding the outcome of the battle. This flow of power may be the hero's last chance for survival or his last act of resistance. Utters words determined to follow his brothers, perhaps to another world or to the other world, indicating his willingness to face his fate and accept the final outcome of the battle. We see a moment of intense battle between 2 warriors hidden in the shadows of the moment. The gaze of one of them is full of rage and determination, his fist shrouded in the energy of a blow that promises to be decisive. Thunderblade art, final strike, rumbles through the air like a thunderclap heralding the inevitable. The warrior, now fully absorbed in the energy of his strike, cleaves the space in front of him. It's as if he's dancing with death, and his cry of "Ha!" resonates with the dynamics of the movement. It is a cry of defiance, but also of desperate hope. The consequences of a clash of forces. The warrior in black, his face contorted with pain and surprise at the incoming blow, doesn't seem to realize yet that the battle has been decided. "Oi!" burst from his chest, sounding like an echo of past victories that now seem so distant. The full picture of the battle unfolds before us. The warrior in red, with dagger in hand, prepares to strike a blow that could end the fight. The moment froze in anticipation of the outcome, and it was as if the whole place held its breath. Silence ensues, interrupted only by the sound of a steel blade crashing into space. A new episode of the battle unfolds before us. Magical waves of energy collide in a fierce confrontation between two martial arts masters. Their movements are precise and decisive, as if every gesture could change the outcome of the fight. A cry of "Arr!" full of pain and despair hangs in the air while lightning magic draws glowing arcs of light around them. The face of one of the fighters, his features contorted with concentration and rage. The master's whiskers fluttered in time with his breathing, and his gaze pierced his opponent as if he could burn him with a single glance. That look speaks volumes. It reads the history of the many battles he has fought in. A trio of companions standing shoulder to shoulder, their gazes filled with determination and support. Their shared sigh of "Yang" emphasizes unity and the strength of team spirit. They are willing to be each other's defense in this battle, regardless of the dangers they face. His powerful body and gaze full of challenge, the figures of his allies are now just a backdrop to his power. The air around him vibrates with built-up energy, and the story revisits him, foreshadowing the next chapter of this epic confrontation. The protagonist, his hair fluttering in the wind and his eyes reflecting calmness and confidence. The words, "I watched the fight because it was interesting," flow from him effortlessly, despite the poignancy of what's happening around him. It's as if he's removed himself from the chaos, observing the battle as art rather than bloodshed. The situation changes abruptly. Strained calm is replaced by tension. One of the warriors, wounded and bleeding, exclaims, "He stole our weapons in the blink of an eye." It is despair and surprise in the face of the unprecedented cunning and speed of the enemy. Brings us back to the protagonist in Burgundy, his smile full of defiance and hidden intentions. "Who the hell is this guy?" Bewilderment and admiration intertwine in the words of those watching his actions. We see a startled senior master, his mustache surging with anger and his voice full of indignation. "You bastard! Who are you to pull a prank like that?" The air shakes with his shriek, and the tension reaches a climax, heralding a new round of conflict. The protagonist, a warrior in maroon, relaxes back, his gaze full of calm and confidence as if he owns the situation. "Well, I don't remember playing any pranks." His words, light and caustic, as if playing to his opponents, who are still trying to understand the depth of his cunning. Up close, his eyes narrowed, and the words, "Martial artists have their weapons stolen from them," sound like a challenge, questioning their skill and vigilance. His mocking tone emphasizes that stealing the weapons is not just good luck, but a humbling lesson for those who thought they were invincible. We see one of the opponents, his eyes full of shock and bewilderment. "What? You're a captive who still has wet ears." He can't believe that someone seemingly less experienced and younger can outsmart them and make a fool of them. The hero finds himself face to face with a group of enemies. Their numerical superiority leaves him no chance of winning a fair fight. He stands with his back turned to them, his arms crossed behind his head as if he has already accepted his fate, but his posture still reads defiance and defiance. A warrior in a blue kimono, with the image of a sage and fighter, respectfully addresses the stranger. "Who are you? May I know your name?" His manner of speaking betrays experience and greatness, his constancy in battle and in life. The inscription beneath his image reads, "The second sword of Taizang Ha Genhong," like a signature under a portrait of the master. From the warrior in maroon, his confidence and mystery interpenetrating. "Yay!" His answer is delayed, creating a pause full of innuendos and secrets he doesn't seem ready to reveal yet. He, as if gathering his strength, begins his confession, "I am a celestial demon caster." His voice is low and determined, and he comes across as a man with hidden depths that are just beginning to reveal themselves. And suddenly, tearing the veil of secrecy, a fiery demon emerges, its sinister silhouette seeming to burst from the very heart of the warrior in maroon. "Blessed! As expected, I really like you!" His words, full of wild energy, explode in the air, promising new and exciting twists and turns in this mystical story. His words reflect the struggle tearing him from the inside out. I'll be quiet, I can be calm. A storm of emotions rages around him, and demonic energy erupts, reflecting the inner conflict that torments his soul. An elder in a blue kimono, with a face full of understanding and peace, addresses the warrior. Ah, so you are a heaven destroyer, Shishimushi, celestial demon caster. His voice is full of respect and knowledge, and he seems to have solved his opponent's mystery. The elder asks a question that sounds like a judgment. Idiots, why are you introducing yourselves? He faces the darkness, the silhouette of something powerful and unknowable looming in front of him, which the night conceals. We see the battlefield. The warrior in the burgundy shirt and his opponent are in the center of the battle, with warriors around them ready for battle. Someone yells, "Step aside!" as if in a last-ditch effort to prevent an inevitable collision. An elder in a blue kimono, his face contorted with anger, points his finger and questions with disdain, "How dare you try to deceive and coerce us?" He can't believe that someone who is getting rich and having fun playing with a heavenly demon is standing in front of him, and it offends him to the core. The elder's anger reaches a climax and he shouts a threat. "I will kill you along with him, kill him!" His words are determined to end this confrontation, and his rage is so great that it's as if it could become a weapon itself. There comes a moment of action. The elder, armed with a sword, makes a decisive leap into the air, preparing to deliver the fatal blow. The dynamics of his movement seem to reflect the gravity and speed of his intentions. Demon, his face hidden by shadows, but his eyes glowing red. The creature utters cryptic words, "Don't tell me you're just going to turn in broken arms." These words, filled with cold certainty, foreshadow that the outcome of the battle has not yet been decided, and that new unexpected developments in the plot lie ahead. The warrior in maroon stares straight ahead, his eyes closed, but his lips are slightly open, and words full of self-assurance and calmness come out of them. "Do you really think I'm going to die a vain death?" His face expresses no fear or doubt, only unwavering resolve. Face on which now plays a wild, crazy smile. After surviving this hellish time, his words reflect the trials experienced and triumph over them, eyes glowing red, promising unpredictability and power. Of a warrior clashing with his opponent in a blue kimono, they are both in motion, their bodies tense in a martial dance filled with power and grace. The moment of the mighty blow. The air around the fighters vibrates with the energy of the collision, and the sound of their fighting echoes around them. In that brief moment, everything becomes clear. The battle is reaching its climactic peak. The whirlwind of battle around the maroon-clad warrior intensifies, his enemies multiplying like shadows, surrounding him on all sides. But he seems ready for their attacks, his posture indicating an unwavering confidence in his abilities. Warrior's face, his eyes full of determination and strength. He doesn't look frightened or concerned, despite the danger engulfing him. A powerful counterattack strike that the warrior in burgundy delivers to his opponent. The air around them is filled with the energy of the collision, and even the ground itself seems to shake beneath their feet. The demon reappears, his voice filled with mockery. "Kakike, you are incapable of properly utilizing even a modicum of your power." But the warrior, despite the provocations, remains unperturbed. His face expresses equanimity and concentration, readiness to resist any obstacles. A warrior in blue, his back turned to us, shouting, "You stupid bastards!" His voice fills the air, and his irritation can be felt in every word. He watches his opponents, who seem defeated before his might. An old man in a blue kimono with a mustache that emphasizes his age and wisdom, his face expressing determination and perhaps frustration with his opponents or subordinates. A warrior in action, his sword raised up, ready to strike. His movements are quick and precise. He is completely focused on the battle. We see the vortex of martial energy that the warrior in blue creates around him, his power felt in every movement. At the center of the vortex, the warrior in maroon seems calm and collected, despite the chaos around him. The hero, with an exhausted expression, is in the middle of an explosion of energy. His gaze is hidden from us, but we can feel the tension of the moment through his body. His adversary, a warrior in blue with cruel and resolute features, shouted, "You shouldn't have gotten distracted." His voice is brimming with emotion and an unrelenting desire for victory. Moment of the fight. The warrior in maroon dodges the attack, his movements graceful and lightning fast even in the face of overwhelming danger. Warrior in blue, his face full of surprise and realization, as if he realized or felt something for the first time. That feeling. I got him. His eyes narrowed, and he looked like a man who had reached a new understanding of his opponent or the situation as a whole. The warrior in blue, with an image of consternation and shock on his face, seems to realize something important is happening out of frame. Confrontations where the warrior in blue standing with his back to us seems defeated or wounded, and the warrior in maroon says to him contemptuously, "Don't you know that your whole body was given to you by your parents? Why would you waste a valuable princess?" Next, the warrior in maroon, with a sly smile, asks a question full of irony and mockery. "But the old man, is it okay to slaughter your allies like that?" Shows a warrior in blue with an expression of rage and resentment on his face. He shouts, "You're arrogant." His emotions rush out and his words are filled with anger and outrage at the events unfolding around him. In an epic moment, the warrior in maroon is pushed in the air by the warrior in blue, who appears to be injured and thrown back by a powerful force. This movement is filled with power and energy, and the contrast between the calm confidence of the warrior in maroon and the sudden weakness of his opponent becomes apparent. Focuses on the warrior in maroon, his eyes burning with focus and equanimity. His gaze is piercing and determined, as if he can already see the end of the battle. Shows a warrior in blue sitting on the ground, seemingly shocked and stunned. His hand covers his mouth and he makes a sound of surprise and shock. We see his face in horror reflected in the mirror, with a revelation or realization that seems to turn his world upside down. His eyes radiate fear, and his facial expression suggests a deep inner conflict. The warrior is seen from below in a dynamic perspective. He looks up, where two opponents in blue are throwing their swords at him, ready to strike. The moment is tense and full of anticipation of the clash, and the quiet exclamation point in the word cloud hints at the hero's inner readiness for the coming battle. A warrior filled with coolness and calculation. He's turned sideways to us, and his eyes narrowed with concentration, ready to retaliate. In this brief moment before the storm of action, he assesses the situation, deciding what move to make next. The moment the warrior in maroon dodges the attack by taking a graceful step to the side. His opponents in blue scramble out of the way, their swords thrust into the ground, the energy emanating from them cutting through the air, creating bright trails of light. Warrior in full motion, he moves forward determinedly, preparing to counterattack. His opponent in the blue kimono looks shocked at the unexpected speed and power of the response he just received. This is the moment when the battle reaches its climax. Every next move could be decisive. A warrior in a blue kimono standing in the foreground, his expression filled with anxiety and disapproval. His gaze reflects concern or frustration, and he addresses his comrades, who are blurred into the background, with the words, "What are you guys doing?" Him more closely, with deepened eyebrows and a focused gaze. He calls his comrades to action, "Keep pressing our numbers." His words seem like an order or an attempt to inspire them to continue the battle. He looks enraged, his face contorted with anger as he addresses a rival not visible to us. You seem to enjoy fighting under numerical superiority." His words carry a clear contempt for his opponent's tactics. Captures him on the move, perhaps in an attempt to regroup or counterattack. His movements are quick and decisive. He jumps or evades an attack. His actions express a willingness to take the fight regardless of the circumstances. The warrior in the blue kimono at close range, his face contorted with bewilderment and disappointment. He says, "Damn, he appeared in front of my nose completely unnoticed," which emphasizes his surprise and perhaps a sense of defeat in the face of his opponent's unexpected abilities. His gaze becomes even more focused and puzzled as he considers the situation he finds himself in. The question mark in his line emphasizes the depth of his bewilderment and search for answers. A warrior in an unusual pose, full of confidence and control. "What's that rack?" His opponent asks a question, indicating that the warrior in maroon used an unforeseen tactic or technique, causing his opponent to be surprised. We see a demonic figure that appears to be associated with a warrior in maroon. "You're going to use that?" There is a sense of irony and anticipation in this question, suggesting that the demon is aware of the warrior's hidden reserves or powers that have not yet been revealed. A warrior in burgundy, his face lit up with a confident smile and his eyes glowing bright red, emphasizing his inner strength and perhaps an impending victory or powerful move. The same warrior delivers a powerful and bright blow, surrounded by energy that erupts around him, giving the impression of an explosion. His stance and concentration show his fighting spirit and skill. He's at the center of the energy vortex created by his technique or power. Everything around him seems to be absorbed by this powerful flow of energy, further emphasizing his central position in this battle.